You're listening to the Mommy Talks podcast, where we firmly believe that mommying while juggling a business and managing a family can be hard at times. So how are others accomplishing it? Self-appointed Mommy Executive Officer of the Money Making Mommies, Aisha Gillum, will help you redefine what mommying looks like while running a business and managing a family. Here's your host, educator, entrepreneur, and oatmeal raisin cookie lover, Aisha Gillum.
Hi guys, my name is Aisha. I go by MEO. That stands for Mommy Executive Officer. For any one of you new listeners out there, I would like to say welcome. I'm so excited that we've crossed paths on our individual journeys, and I hope that this is not our last interaction. Now, if you've been following along, you already know that I've had the pleasure of interviewing some amazing women, right? I think moms are just, I might be a little bit biased because I think moms are the most awesomest people on planet Earth. In this next interview, I'm able to interview a mom. In addition to being a mom, she's a wife and a doctor, and she has several businesses that she owns. She takes us along her journey and how she's able to accomplish all of this, as well as expose us to how she was able to pay off over $138,000 in debt in just 3 years. She paid off the debt faster than she got a degree, guys.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Brittany Halford. Thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed on my podcast. I'm excited to have you share your story with the Mommy Talks community.
And I am very happy to be here, so thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, when did you first become interested in what it is that you do and why?
So I wear many hats. If we're talking about my professional hat as a physician, my mother would tell you since the age of 3, I told her that I wanted to be a baby doctor. I'm not a baby doctor. I take care of adults in the hospital. And so that came to reality when I started medical school in 2009. But since then, I've always been kind of creative, and I'm also very frugal, so I would always tinker with things and figure out a different way to do things. So that has made me extremely crafty. And since that time, I have started, a business. One is with Bramlin and Rose, and my daughter is the muse for the business. I just realized that I was protecting my hair, and I wasn't protecting hers because there were limited satin line hair accessories for kids. So that started probably in 2018 when she was born. Then I came to that realization that, okay, this is something that I need to create for myself, and potentially other moms can use it for their daughters. And then just recently, I've started to put more information out there about personal finance. I realized that was a superpower of mine. I paid off my student loans, $138,000 in 3.5 years. And so my husband, everybody just would ask me money questions, and it would just become you talking to a girlfriend about something real juicy. I would get really excited about talking about money. So that is more recent. I would say 2019, I look back, and that was kind of our first post about me paying off my student loan debt and spreading more messaging about finance.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Being a doctor, a mom, and then running 2 separate businesses. How do you do it? And you have a baby on the way. How do you do all that?
With help, we have a phenomenal nanny. She is 100% available to us. And I don't do everything. So, we're on a Zoom right now. Thankfully, it's just, this wall and me. Because if you would look around, there are clothes on the floor and some dishes in the sink. My house is not always clean. You have to choose your battles. And right now, picking up these clothes that's not my battle right now.
That's so funny that you talked about that, because my next question was exactly what did you struggle with when you first got started going after becoming a doctor and then transitioning to being more of an entrepreneur, mompreneur?
Yeah, so I would say becoming a doctor, the thing that I struggled with the most was imposter syndrome. So I am originally from Flint, Michigan. And, you know, whenever I say I'm from Flint, Michigan, I'm sure there are many thoughts that pop into people's head, you know, especially now because of the Flint water crisis that is still ongoing. And I didn't realize, I guess, how the world perceived me as being disadvantaged until I went to undergraduate. And I was at a party and I told this guy I was from Flint, Michigan, and he told me, he's like, oh, well, have you ever seen anyone murdered? No. You know, but just having kind of that external perception manifest itself within me really affected my self-esteem and my ability to think, okay, can I actually do this? Like, there are no doctors in my family. I didn't really know many doctors from Flint. There were a few, but I didn't have too many personal connections with them. And so I think that was probably the biggest struggle that I had in becoming a physician, just believing in myself and believing that I was capable and I was supposed to be here and I had something to offer. And then mommyhood hit, and that changes everything, because there's no blue book for becoming a mother. And on top of that, trying to balance everything, you know, motherhood, wifehood, and to take care of yourself and not stifle your own passions. It has been challenging to manage the time, I would say, and being comfortable with not having everything perfect.
That's something that I think we all can relate to. Like, you just have to learn how to kind of like accept things, because you were talking about how your house looks behind the scenes. Like, before I hit record, I swear to God, I had like some cereal boxes that were showing in the camera view, and I just had to like hide them really quick, just because it's just like, you know, like that just looks so funny, so let me move it, but whatever. Now, like, you went to school, like, to become a doctor. How long do you have to go to school for? Is it like just 7 years altogether?
So there is actually, well, I don't know if it's still ongoing, but there is a 7-year program. So after high school, you have 4 years of medical school. After high school, you have 4 years of undergraduate. Then if you take the straight and narrow, you have 4 years of medical school, so a total of 8 years. After that, you are a doctor, but not a trained physician. And so after medical school, you are technically a doctor. You have your doctorate degree, your medical doctorate degree. However, you don't know how to practice medicine until you do your residency training. So your residency training is specifically for your particular discipline within medicine. So you have surgeons, you have pediatricians, you have internal medicine doctors, radiology. Everybody goes through their specified training, and that training duration varies from 3 years to 5+ years.
Oh my goodness. So in total, how many years did you go to school for the type of doctor that you are currently?
So I would say I went to school for 8 years, and then I trained for an additional 3 years before I could practice on my own.
11 years. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe most people's fear with becoming a doctor is how long you have to go to school, and then like all of the student loans and all of that. So how did that come about? Like, how did you go to school for that amount of time, and then how did you figure out a plan to pay off your student loans, if that makes sense? Like, you said that you paid out over $100,000 in student loan debt, and it seems like you did it pretty fast, right?
I did. I actually didn't realize how fast I had done it until I started talking to other people and realizing that they still had a lot of debt, you know, and people who have been out of school for, you know, 10+ years still paying on their student loans. In medical school, I don't really think I thought about it that much. I was always, you know, I mentioned that I was frugal, right? My parents were frugal. They were both economic majors, so they had some kind of like money savviness, and so that they passed along to me. I remember And, during car rides, mom say, okay, we're about to go to the store. We're going to get this. We have $20. It's 20% off. How much do we have to pay? How much change are you going to give back? So I was really good at mental math and just like understanding the power of money. And so while in medical school, I budgeted. I didn't take out the full loan, and I actually probably a contradiction, but I think I returned some money. I can't say that for sure, but if my memory serves me right, I returned some money or, reduced the amount of money that was offered to me. I didn't take the full loan amount. I started paying on it as soon as I started residency, which I know a lot of my colleagues put their loans in deferment. And I initially thought that I was going to do a public service loan forgiveness, which basically means if you work for a qualified program or community in some discipline in which you are serving the community, and you have 120 qualified payments, then the government will pay off the remaining balance of your loans. So when I started residency, I did everything that I needed to do in order to put myself in this public service loan forgiveness. And I was paying the minimum because I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to give you any more of my money than I actually need to. But after I realized that there was no guarantee that the government was actually going to pay back my loans and that they just continued to accrue interest, I said, okay, I need to buckle down. I need to sacrifice and figure out a plan. And I was able to do that. One of the ways that really helped me save money was by refinancing my student loans. And another was, fixing your mindset that, okay, no one else is paying off their loans. They're paying the minimum balance, but I'm going to attack these loans so that I can have this freedom to do what I want. And really, it has freed up. I was paying, after I refinanced my student loans, $2,500 a month for student loan payments. And so just think, now I have $2,500 extra dollars in my pocket every month because I'm not paying on these student loans. And by paying them off quicker, I actually saved $10,000. So that's even better, money in the bank. So I say fixing your mindset that you are capable, understanding what brings you joy. So even while paying off my student loans, I still traveled to Thailand with my husband. We went to Hawaii, we went to India, we traveled domestically. So it wasn't like I was just eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, although I really do like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I still eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But it wasn't, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to sacrifice everything. I can't, go out or can't do this because I'm trying to pay off my debt. No, I had a plan and I worked the plan.
Right. Something I did learn in regards to budgeting, you should not omit fun from the budget. It's a requirement when structuring your budget. So I'm glad to hear that you didn't cut out all the fun. That's so crazy just to hear your story, and hear how you were able to, like I said, pay off that debt so fast, and you're a doctor. I've always assumed, and you shouldn't assume, but I always assumed that doctors just had a lot of debt for a long time. Okay, and I was just like, why would they want to go to school just to be in debt? I don't know. So it's so good to meet someone that was open enough to even speak on this topic. So thank you again for just taking the time. So you did mention your husband, and I've noticed that you have a little baby in the oven and you have a daughter. Mm-hmm. So do you know what you're having?
We're having a boy.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we actually waited until my daughter was born and my husband announced the birth. And he hesitated. He had to make sure that, okay, I'm going to announce this. It's a girl. So he announced the sex during the birth. But this time, because life is so busy, I just figured it would be more helpful for me planning wise. So I'm giving away all of these girl clothes. I'm trying to find people who are having girls so that I can give away all these girl clothes and make room for, boy clothes now.
Well, set them to the side because I met this other mom. She has a baby on the way as well. So I don't think she knows what she's having yet, but I can definitely like, hey, you need to reach out to her. She has some clothes for you. Well, definitely. And I think she lives in like Virginia. I met her. Like, I think the power of social media is so freaking awesome. Like, you just meet all these different people from all over the world. I met someone not too long ago from Germany. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy.
Yeah, it has been great to have social media and connect with other people, and I mean that's how we're here today. So,
yeah. Now, what were your family's first thoughts about when you wanted to go after your passion? Like you stated, your mom said that you had been saying since you were 3 that you wanted to be a doctor. Even though it changed a little bit, you still wanted to be a doctor and you wanted to pursue that. What were their first thoughts, since I think you said you don't have any doctors in your family, right?
No. My family was supportive. They were. When I say that, you know, I was always a really good student, and I really liked math and science, and I have always been like very disciplined and determined. I think I get that from my father. This man he takes it to an extreme. But yeah, so they were very supportive. But once you get in school, right, no one knows what you're going through, and it is a struggle. They kind of know, but they don't really know. So I remember I had done some shadowing when I was an undergraduate, and I was just, you know, following an OB-GYN around as she was doing her rounds and delivering babies. And I tell you, girl, that whole postpartum process, the mom pooped and there was blood, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Girl, the smell, and then the sight of blood, getting woozy. I had to sit down. I think I may have gone home. And my mom's like, how are you going to be a doctor if you can't even do fill in the blank, you know?
Right.
So there was a little bit of that. Also, you know, being where you're from, when you come home after having different experiences, if you speak a different way, then they're like, okay, so now you think you're fill in the blank. So there was a little bit of that as well. So my family continues to be supportive, even with my other entrepreneurial pursuits. You know, as we started our Satin Line hair accessories brand, we don't have any money. So I basically just recruited my cousins like, hey, I'm doing this other, you know, activity here, and I need you to model. So we got them together. I hired a photographer, and they modeled. And even now, you know, with the financial coaching and the personal finance, financial literacy, they're very supportive. So I come from a very big family and a supportive family. So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's pretty awesome. What about your immediate family, like your husband and your daughter? How are they? Are they pretty supportive? Like I know your daughter, she's pretty young, right?
Yes, she's 2.5. So
does she probably doesn't fully understand?
She doesn't fully understand, but I mean, she's one of the models too, you know, and she was the muse for the business. And so she will, you know, I'll put on a headband and she'll say, okay, mommy, I want to put on my headband too. Or, you know, we're going to take pictures today. So she's extremely supportive. Actually, we went to the post office today to mail a few orders, and she's right there with me. So I'm hoping that, you know, she'll just get to see our work ethic, and that you can pursue your passions regardless of what it is, and make it become a reality. My husband is also very supportive of, you know, my entrepreneurial pursuits, and these are not the only 2 businesses. I had another startup that I had joined when we were in Atlanta. So he's used to me just coming up with ideas, and sometimes, you know, when I present an idea, then he reels me back in, you know, so he's supportive. I now have cut down my clinical time in order to pursue some of these other entrepreneurial pursuits, as well as to spend more time at home with family and making sure that I can be a good wife and be a good mom and still have some time for myself.
But he's supportive of you doing that. So that sounds pretty awesome. Like, you know, to have someone willing to allow you room to grow, like as a person, because that's something that your soul is seeking, you know what I mean? And he's not holding you back from going after that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative.
What was your number one goal when you got started? Like I think your number one goal may have been focused on being a doctor. How did it transition into like wanting to do these other pursuits?
So when you're in medical school and when you're in residency, that's really all you can do. I've always been a person who has done a lot. So even when I was in high school, I couldn't find a job, but I was a cheerleader. So I said, okay, I'm going to create my own curriculum. I created a curriculum. I presented it to elementary schools and said, oh, well, you know, I know you guys are looking for programming. Here is a cheerleading curriculum that I have designed that you can offer as an after-school program. So that in itself was, okay, let me try to solve a problem by exposing these young girls to someone who, you know, I was making good grades in school and things of that nature. So I figured I could be like a mentor to these young girls, as well as giving them some entertainment. We do this cheerleading, we teach you a little skill. So that's always been me. Like I've always done a lot. And so, you know, to make space for that and to transition from medicine to that, I would say that it was kind of always there. Even when I was in medical school, I couldn't do much of it, but there were student programs in which I could join and still design and be creative and be innovative in that way. And when I became a physician, I just had a little bit, well, when I became an attending, I would say, so a full-fledged physician where I can practice on my own, I had some additional space and time because my schedule is basically I work for 7 days and I'm off for 7 days. So while I'm off, I could be doing research, which I did when I was in Atlanta, but I also had other time. And I like to tinker and I like to be innovative and creative, and my brain just works that way. Like I'm always thinking of ideas and ways to improve things. And that's how that passion developed, and I kind of found space for that.
Got it. Now, what are your biggest challenges that you face regarding juggling like all of these things while managing a family, working your full-time? Well, are you still working full-time?
So I'm not full-time now. I'm about 60%, 70% now, but once this baby comes in July, I'll be 60% clinical. So a total of 70%, because I also teach, and that's part of the medicine. I teach quality improvement to the residents. So 70%, so part-time, but not 50%. So still majority of the time I'm working as a physician.
Got it. But how do you juggle everything that you have going on? Like, and how do you think it's gonna get like a lot more for you when you have the new baby?
So yeah, I think in juggling, I figure out what brings me joy, and that helped me to get out of debt, but that also helps me with my time and my time management. And so if something does not bring me joy, like cleaning, for example, we'll find somebody else, to outsource it. And thankfully, my husband has a full-time job. We are high earners, so I have some flexibility in that I can hire a person to come in twice a week and do the deep cleaning, so I don't have to spend that time cleaning the house. Also things like our nanny, when I say our nanny is a godsend, our nanny is a godsend. Like she is a godsend. When we first hired her, I'd never worked with a nanny before, and I was very bashful about asking for what I needed. But man, our nanny is the bomb. she really is. She will cook a meal, you know, if I need to take down, so she can't comb hair very well, so I don't let her comb Brooke's hair. But if she needs, you know, if I need to take down the braids so I can wash her hair or rebraid her hair, then she'll take down her braids. You know, she spent the night on times when my husband and I miscommunicate and he has to work late and I'm still at work. So asking for help when I need it and outsourcing, like literally that has been the saving grace. And another thing that I've realized is, like, if I don't give myself time and space to do something for myself, then I'm not good for anybody else. You know, I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good doctor. So I try to budget that in. I'm doing a little bit less of that, less of the exercise piece now, but I used to run and like to run. And so I'm looking forward to getting back to that. I have this little one. And figuring out what brings me joy, asking for help, and being comfortable with things not being perfect. I think that's how I juggle.
Cool. So when, like, how do you guys come together collectively, like you and your husband, to figure out a plan to help lessen the load for you or for him, because he's still working a full-time job? I don't want to say like it's just one-sided, all of the attention needs to be on you, because you guys are a partnership. So do you guys come together and, you know, just figure out a plan to make things less of a load for the both of you?
Yeah, we do. So we do weekly check-ins. And so our check-ins are kind of like, okay, how are you doing? Like, you as a person, how do you feel? Are you tired? Are you excited? You know, like things of that nature. And then how are we doing as a couple? Like, you know, not logistically, but how is our marriage? Are you happy with our marriage? What can I do better to serve you? Vice versa. And then we start to talk about all the logistical things. You know, on this day I'm working late, so I need you to be home at this day. Or if my husband is doing a phenomenal job, being very productive academically. He is a physician as well. He's a child psychiatrist. He has his own private practice, you know, and he's a Black man. So a Black man doctor who's a psychiatrist is coveted, and where there are many Black families who are like, listen, I need help. And I mean, he's working his private practice now, but he's taking calls and calling parents at 9 p.m., you know, because of something that happens with the child or the parent needs some support. So I recognize that this is part of who he is. This is part of what he needs in order to do his job well. And I don't try to say, well, you know, you should have been home at such and such, or you shouldn't have taken that call because I'm here and you're never here, or whatever, you know. I try to engage him on that level and support him as well. But we do have our meetings in which we just need to talk about logistics and figure out a way. As well as when we see that the other person, okay, you're tired. You need to start saying no and being honest with them about what we're seeing and like how they're pushing themselves, or you need to take a day for yourself, and being okay with taking that time off. So we have those honest conversations as well.
That's pretty cool, like just to hear how it is like behind the scenes of like a partnership, because like I don't want to say this because I don't want it to sound like a statistic, but you know, like Black families, like you don't really see, you know, I didn't get to see a lot of the, you know, the 2-family homes, so it's really good to like see it and see it working and just being like this positive thing. Like, you know, it just gives I'm sure it gives a lot of others hope in Black love. I hate saying it like that because I hate it being like a stereotype kind of deal. How has your current situation assisted you in reaching your achievements of improving your life? Like, I think you became a doctor before you became a wife and a mom, right?
Yes.
So do you feel like after you became a mom and a mom and a wife, do you feel like those titles that you took on changed your decisions that you made at any point, like after becoming a doctor?
Yeah, they did. So when I was in residency, my husband and I met when I was in medical school. So I technically wasn't a doctor when we met, but we were married in 2015, and I finished medical school in 2013. And after residency, I could have specialized in, cardiology, so been a heart doctor, or endocrinologist, diabetes, hormone doctor. I could have done many different things, been a kidney doctor. And one of the things that I wanted actually at that time was I was considering critical care medicine, and where I had done residency was in St. Louis, and they had a critical care program only, and so I could have done that. But my husband, there's this system in medicine called a match. So you interview at a bunch of places, you rank these places, they rank you, and then this algorithm finds some type of match. And so he matched in Atlanta. So I didn't want to be away from my husband and spend additional years traveling back and forth. We had already done long distance. So I made the decision to not, go into critical care medicine and be a hospitalist. Even thinking about opportunities now that have been afforded to me, I have said no to things because I'm a mom. So I don't see it as a sacrifice, I see it as a choice. And I read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And what really resonated in the book, or I listened to the Audible, I have the book too, so I did both, but he says, you have a ladder leaning up against the wall, and you're climbing the ladder only to find that it's leaning against the wrong wall. And that hit home. Like, oh my goodness. And then he also has an exercise of imagine your death, right? You're at your funeral. What are the people saying about you? And what do you want them? So basically, what do you want them to say about you? What are your desires? What are your priorities? And I realized that seeing another patient is not going to be what I'm going to say on my deathbed. Like, I'm never going to say, oh, I wish I would have just seen one more patient. No. Maybe for some people, but for me, no. It's going to be, oh, I wish I would have spent more time with my husband, or we would have traveled to this place, or I wish I would have had this special moment with my daughter, and I wish I would have been able to make this wedding or go to this birthday party, because family is my core. And so the sacrifices that I've made have been for family sacrifices, but I don't see them as sacrifices. I see them as strategic choices that I have made for them, but also making for me, because I've realized what brings me more joy in life.
That was beautiful. You almost made me cry. Like, that is so freaking yeah, that was beautiful. Hopefully your daughter hears this one day, and your son, like, they hear this and just are in awe with your mom. Like, in addition to, like, you seem like you're a pretty awesome mom. Like, I've seen some videos of you and your daughter, and it's just like so cute. I can't wait to have a daughter. I have 2 sons, so I cannot wait to have a daughter and just do her hair and do all the like dressed up things, and I don't get to have that much fun.
Well, you could give me some boy tips, because this energy, like, I can already feel it in the womb. He's just moving and punching, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, if you come out like this with all this energy, I'm not gonna have like any dishes, stains gonna be everywhere, no furniture. We already don't have that much furniture, but there's gonna be no furniture, pads on the walls.
But then right before this interview, my baby, he's the one with the most energy. He's sick. He's just like doing everything. He's like running around in a circle, girl. Like, just get yourself together and get grounded right now before July. Because I talked to my sister today actually, and she was telling me my nephew broke his foot, and he's like 7 or no, he's like 8. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I've not had a broken bone. How do you have a broke foot?
Yes.
It's like he rode a dirt bike or something and it flipped over and fell on his foot. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Now, what would you say to any other mom who is on the fence about hiring a coach, investing in a program to further their education regarding their interests, starting a business or revamping a business? If they were considering this, but on the fence because of life circumstances?
I would say you need to figure out your why. And because when you become clear on why you are doing something, it makes the decision so much easier, right? Because there's so many things that we can say, oh, well, I don't have the money, or I don't have the time. You know, you have to say, okay, well, I'm going to take this course because I've consumed all of YouTube University and done as much as I could, and I still haven't gotten to the level that I want. I need to surround myself with people who are knowledgeable, who have a level of expertise, who can definitely like flatten that learning curve for me. You have to, okay, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for independence so that I'm no longer working for the man and having someone else dictate my schedule? Am I doing this for my family to build generational wealth because I'm from Flint, Michigan, and no, my family didn't struggle, but they had no money to give me for school. And that's why I had $138,000. So I'm doing this for my daughter because she's going to have a full ride for school. She's going to, you know, have everything paid for. She's going to have investments. Whatever that why is, you have to solidify that why, write it down, and then you got to start. Because what I've realized through this, and I told you I was part of a startup, and then I had this other idea and that failed, but fear kills more dreams than failure, right? And because I've been through those other things that have failed, I've still learned. So they weren't actually failures, because from that experience, I evolved. So by waiting, by holding on to that fear, by limiting yourself, you are limiting your evolution to become the person that God actually created you for, you know? So that has been what I'm speaking to myself. I am like so focused on trying to find my purpose this year. That has been my prayer for this year. But I've definitely been there. I've been fearful, and I'm frugal. I said I'm frugal. So to spend $1,600 on a course or for a coach is not something that I usually intend on, you know, but you got to do it if you want to elevate yourself and achieve your goals.
How do you feel that you got to this point? Like, did you have like a mentor or something that helped guide you to like, to the understanding of like, hey, you can only get so far looking at YouTube. After you can't do YouTube anymore, then you have to do this? Or is that just something that you were able to figure out on your own?
I would say a little bit of both. The figuring out what brings you joy piece came from a mentor when I started out in attending. There was a woman, she was climbing, you know, in the professional realm, and she had 2 children, and I'm like, how do you do it all? She's like, I don't. I figure out what brings me joy, and I do those things, and everything else I leave to somebody else, or, you know, I accept that I'm not going to be perfect in this manner, and this is okay. As far as figuring out that I can't do it all, or that I need some help in, you know, YouTube, it's just me being honest with myself. And sometimes we don't achieve what we want to achieve, not because we're incapable, right? It's because we need some help. So just like I need help for to manage my time, to have somebody to help me clean or to cook a meal and things of that nature. You also need help in your career. I didn't become a doctor because I just dreamed it one day and I went out and practiced medicine. You know, I learned from other doctors. I had to take courses and I had to pay for it. Medical school was $138,000. So if you have a passion or a goal, then you need to learn from other people who are experts, because you can only achieve so much by yourself. And what has also been very helpful, so there are a couple of podcasts that I listen to that have been extremely helpful. One has been a Side Hustle Pro podcast, Nicaila Matthews. Love her, love everybody she invites on there. And then the other one is, I can't remember the moderator's name, but How I Built This, NPR. And just listening to the struggles of other entrepreneurs, right? Just listening to their struggles has also afforded me that, oh, I can do this. I am capable, but I need some help, you know, and realizing that we went to school for a reason. Like, you know, learning doesn't stop when you become an adult. You still have to continue to learn. And if there's more education out there, even if you have to pay for it, as long as you hone in on your why and you focus in it becomes clear, and that goal aligns with your why, then why not?
Right. I got that part, like, about the learning from, I love to listen to like motivational videos early in the morning. That's my YouTube and my time. And Eric Thomas. I don't know if you've ever heard him. He is so, like, he is so real and he tells the truth, and he's just like, you know, so many of us are buying the latest iPhones. Like, time they come out, you have to get the newest iPhone. You're upgrading your phone, but you're not upgrading your own system.
Girl.
So it's like, that's so, like, I used to like dread school, and my son, he's there too. He's like, can I just not go to school? But it's just like, we're all like, we have to always learn. And I found myself like reading more, like, you know, I'm just like, oh, like, we always will have to learn.
Definitely. And as long as you see it as an investment in yourself, you know, so the Satin Line Hair Accessories brand, Bramlin and Rose, is a family business. And with family businesses comes joy, but it also comes that family drama. You know how it is. You know, it's family, and we know each other, so we might, you know, bicker for a minute, and then I'm like, okay, Mom, I need a break, or Auntie, I need a break, so I'm gonna call you back in 20 minutes, and then we're gonna figure this out, you know. And that's one of the things that I had to tell my mom. And also my sister-in-law has joined, and she has been absolutely phenomenal in helping. But like, listen, we need some help. We need to learn, because sometimes you don't even know what you don't know, right? You know? And so we're going to enroll in this course, and we're going to take this course, and it's going to be a self-investment, because once we learn these skills, no one can take them away from us. You know, they don't depreciate. These skills don't depreciate. You can only build upon them. So it's not like those Jordans that once you put them on and you walk around for a little bit, or somebody step on your shoes, you're ready to fight. The value does not decline. It only goes up from there. And so that has just been so rewarding. When I think about all the stuff that I didn't know, but I know now, it just makes me feel like, oh, I got this next step, you know? I have never done a financial coaching program, but I have this knowledge. I've done it. I've paid off my debt. I'm building wealth for my daughter. You know, I have a business. Let me package this up to share this with someone else. But let me figure out actually how to do it effectively, so that I can serve the people that I need to serve in the way that I can do it most powerful and have a bigger impact for them in their lives.
That's inspiring. Like, you are definitely goals, Dr. Brittany Halford. I was like, I have to make sure that I put doctor first. You are a doctor. I want to show you all your respect that you've earned from going to school for 11 years and your $100,000 debt. So you earned it. You earn that title.
Thank you, I
What
appreciate
is
it.
next? You're welcome. What's next on your journey?
So I would say next on my journey is investing myself, learning a little bit more about just finances and management of investments. So that's one of my goals for this year too, is just learning how I'm not going to be like a day trader or options trader or anything like that, because I am risk averse, right? But I want to become more knowledgeable about investments, and particularly investments that people can do on low incomes. Because there are so many of us, I just realized that in speaking with a family member, that she has struggles, like real money struggles that I have no awareness of, because I've never actually experienced those money struggles in my adult life. But learning more of how I can serve my community in that way. So that is part of like a personal journey for me. And I am so excited. This baby is coming. So that, of course, is a journey, having a little boy and being a mom of two. But I'm also really, really excited about the financial coaching piece. Right now, I'm working with 2 women, and I'm just excited about developing that more so that I can serve other people and, help them to build wealth for their family, and also just financial literacy so they can pass it on to generations and generations, and we can learn all of these hacks.
The importance of starting their own business, because that's part of his secret. Okay.
Yes. So you know what? We actually, I'm listening to the Audible, but we have the book, because a lot of these like financial books, they have a lot of numbers and diagrams that you need to reference. But Tax-Free Wealth, that is a good book that I've learned a lot about. One of which, I mentioned that our daughter has been modeling for our business. I'm going to pay her, right? So that's earned income. And I get to deduct it on my taxes.
Okay.
I get to put the money in her account, and it's earned income. So I can invest it in a Roth IRA because she's under the income limits, and I don't have to do any back doors or anything like that. And that income, she's 2. So that income, when she's ready to retire, girl, she's gonna be a millionaire. She just like mom. I worked for my mom as a model when I was 2, and I'm a millionaire.
This is another strategy that I just ran across as well, and something that I'm implementing for my own family. What I don't know if you've heard of it, whole life insurance. It's well, it has to be set up a certain type of way with a mutual insurance company, because not all insurance companies can set up the policy the way that it needs to be set up in order for it to be like a wealth building tool for the family. But it's a dividend paying whole life insurance company. There are so many, but they've paid out dividends for at least like the last 160 years. It allows you to, so what I've done, and like you said, for low income families, I'm a single person income family, and I have 2 sons, and I don't know if I've mentioned, but I live in Florida. My rent is like $1,300. I'm not used to that because I came from South Carolina and I was only paying $600, you know what I mean, for a 2-bedroom. So it's just like I'm a little bit mind blown that, they get so little, but they have to pay so much in a different state. But it's just to go out to, I'm saying that to just say, I'm able, because, I'm about to move. So I was telling the guy, I was like, I'm about to move to these other apartments, and I'm going to be saving myself $300 per month by paying less rent. So instead of looking at that like, I got $300, I can go splurge and go buy some, clothes or whatever. No, I can invest that $300. So what we came up with is I can invest $3,600 into this life insurance policy. Not only am I covering myself in the event of me passing away, but I'm also able to like overfund the policy, and the policy is growing cash value. After I've paid it, I can then turn around, if I needed to, draw a loan off of that money, but it's interest, like it's not interest free, but it's tax free. like with the current tax laws, and well, it's based on states, but with the current tax laws in the state of Florida, I can take out money off of the life insurance and it's not taxed. It does not look like to the insurance company that I've taken out any monies out of the account, so they still pay me interest on the amount that it's supposed to, like, that shows. So if I put in $4,000 or $3,600, it looks like I have $3,600 in the account. So they're giving me or paying me interest on $3,600, not like $200 less or $2,000 less or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. Like, have you ever heard of the book called What Would the Rockefellers Do? Mm-mm. That's the book that kind of like inspired me. And I've read another book called Save Your Retirement from Pamela Yellen, because at first I was thinking, like, when I started, I was thinking like, oh, I need to put all this money, like Dave Ramsey and all of them, they suggest like, oh, I need to like max out my 401k after I'm debt free, right? And then I was like, well, maybe I may not want to like max it all out in a 401k, because then I learned about a Roth. And, you know, it's like, oh, I'm looking to get out of the taxes, but you're putting that money in the stock market. We don't know how the stock market will be when it's time to retire. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like a gamble. It's kind of how I see it now. And it's just like, I don't want to say I'm not going to put any money in there, because it could be a good thing in the end, you know? But in her book, she explains, like, we've had since like 1629, we've had 2 market crashes to where people have lost at least half of their investment. I don't want to, and it's taken 25 years to recover. I don't want to take, you know what I mean? I don't want to fully vest that. I don't want to fully invest in just like the stock market. If that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And I think what we can talk about this probably for a very long time. But I want to just address, like, so I would encourage you to maybe read a few more books. I'm going to make a recommendation. That one that I'm reading right now is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. And yeah, so and thinking about how to build wealth, right? So any of your debt has to be deducted from whatever money you build. But for me, when I was paying off my debt, I was also investing at the same time, and investing at the stock market, because when you invest, you're not investing for the short time.
Right.
Investing for the long run. Right. And to your point, the stock market can crash. I mean, we've seen it, right? And I'm going to put some family members' business out there. I'm not going to name which family member, but when the stock market crashed, this family member is older, and she and her husband were afraid.
Right.
And they took their money out of the stock market when the stock market was at the bottom. Mm-hmm. What goes down always comes up. And if you look at the stock market over time, it has grown. So we're young, so we're just like, okay, we're fine. And now our investments are up 30%. So they've actually recovered. So yes, there's a crash in 2008, with a recession, but things have improved steadily since then, and then things have recovered. So in the fear of uncertainty, I would say the one way that you have to build wealth is you have to invest in the stock market. And how you balance that out is by diversification. So diversification meaning diversifying your investments among all companies. You're buying a piece of each company when you're purchasing a stock. So instead of putting all of your apples in one basket, and that one basket being Apple, you might buy a piece of Apple, buy a piece of Amazon, buy a piece of whatever.
Right.
All of these different companies. And so even if the U.S. stocks go down, U.S. is always going to recover. You could also diversify by investing in international stocks, having a percentage of your stocks in international stocks versus domestic stocks. And then if you want to be more conservative, also having bonds. So I would just encourage you to think a little bit more about that investment and the uncertainty about it, because even though there are crashes, there are also whatever goes down comes back up, and you just gotta wait it out.
Right. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm still investing in my 401k, but
Okay.
that's like, I'm still investing in it. I haven't stopped investing in it. I have it matched with my company. So my company offers me a match up to 6%. So I've maxed out that, to me, maxed it out at 6%. Now I'm thinking about still doing a Roth, because I want different types of accounts, because I don't know what the income tax amount is going to be when I'm ready to retire to be investing all of it in a 401k, because right now it's tax deferred, but my tax rate could be higher when I go to retire. So I don't want to go off that route either.
Yeah.
So, I am like, I'm open to it. I just don't want to be that to be my only means. Does that make sense? But the path that I was headed down before, like, increasing my financial literacy, was I was ready to go all into that 401k, girl, and just be like, I'm tax deferred, that's all that matters for right now, and just call it a day. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I would have been so, like, heartbroken, thinking I'm gonna be like doing all this stuff, like thinking, oh, I'm getting over on the government right now because I'm not paying them taxes, only to get like them to come back and get me in the end, like, ha ha ha, joke's on you, like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just like, I'm glad that I'm where I am to be open to learning these new concepts, because I'm the first in my family to even like want to take this serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I have to figure it out for my sons, because I just want them to be able to, I want us to go a different route.
For sure. Yeah. Now, and it starts with just kind of that spark to say, oh, I'm putting this money in the 401k. Is this the actual best investment? Like, what other ways can I invest my money, and not just do, an employer investment account? For some people, that's good enough because they're just hands off. And so it's super easy. You just set the percentage and it's happening.
Right.
You pick when you're going to retire, but they also have a few more fees, if you were to spend some time building, as you said, investing in yourself, then you might be able to manage on your own and save some money, because those fees also add up. And you're right. When you retire, you might have, $5 million, and I don't know how much your self-worth is right now, but, it may be, your net worth may be less right now than it is when you retire, and so those taxes are definitely going to be high. That's why the Roth IRA just seems just like such a great idea, and I'm really excited to do for our daughter and be able to continue to learn. You just start somewhere.
Right. And I would love to like learn more. Like, I'm following your journey. So I do see some of the stuff that you're talking about. I caught the one not too long ago where you were talking about the consolidation of the student loans and refinance and like telling the difference of them. So, I mean, like, if you would consider at some point, just breaking it down in regards to the stocks, that's definitely something that I like to check out. See, my thing is like right now, I'm thinking about like taking a course to get my license and learning more about whole life, like not whole life, but about life insurance, because it's interesting to me. Like, I feel like so many people, so many people just look at it like we'll be here forever, and they don't see the importance of it. And now I do, and so I want to I want to help as many families as I can to do the same, to just cover their sales. Like, it's a lot, but so that's one of the things that I'm definitely like, I'm headed towards, like, about to take this course so I can get this license. And I'm just like, I don't want to get too sidetracked. I don't see how you do it, like do all the multiple things. I'm already working for like a full-time job, and like I work like 60 hours a week in an attempt to fund this business. You know what I mean? Like, go all in, like you said, delegate, like outsource it. I'm willing to pay. Like, what does that charge me? Like, what is the charge for that service? That's what I need to know so I can go ahead and pay it, because I don't mind.
Right.
It's just, listen, I will get all off topic. Are you open to doing collaborations? If so, like, do you have any type of collaborations like that you are open to doing versus others, or are you open to all collaborations?
I wouldn't say all, because it again, I think it just really depends on the time, the timing, and if it meets a goal for me, like that, either a personal goal or that I'm serving an audience that I really want to serve. But I definitely am open to doing collaborations. I think I just met with a mentor. Well, I'm going to call her a mentor. I only met with her once. I don't even know her really. But the meeting was just like, it was sent from God, and I was begrudging it a little bit because my husband had talked to her, and just like the conversation that they had, I'm like, oh, she's going to ask me all these things about medicine and why am I cutting back my clinical time and all of these things. But she really just, God definitely sent her. There was a connection there. And one of the things she mentioned when I spoke to her about, the financial coaching piece and financial literacy and how I'm trying to develop that as a passion, she said, well, who are you doing this with? Like myself, nobody else. And she's like, you need to collaborate, because collaborations, I mean, the fact that I'm able to speak to your audience and hopefully serve them in a way, but also that you're serving me in a way, to have this partnership, this time of connection, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So although you're in Florida and I'm in Boston, there is a connection there to have another mom and to understand, some of the same struggles. So I say all of that to say that I am definitely open to collaboration. And, it depends on the time. There have been people who have asked me, I'm like, oh, I'm about to have my baby at that time, so I can't do it, but connect with me again in a few months and let me see what my availability is. So yes, so thank you again for inviting me. I am looking forward to further collaborating with other people and serving the community. I think that with collaborations, that's the way to serve the best.
It's so fulfilling, because like I said before, the podcast started out with just me by myself, like, okay, let me just talk to the podcast by myself, like, but it's been so, like, I love meeting and speaking to different people. Like, my bedtime is at 9:00, but you were like 8:30. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay up, whatever. We're going to make this happen, just because it's like, I learned a lot, even in this short time of speaking with you. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like what I learned, I always take something away from a collaboration, regardless of who it is or what they're speaking about. It's like, you can always learn from people, like, no matter what. Like, you know what I mean? Even if you're not going into something looking for something, you never know what you'll get out of it. So I'm really glad that there are options for us to collaborate. So it's been pretty cool. Now, how can someone connect with you if they'd like to take you on that collaboration?
Yeah, so I think probably Instagram. I'm on there most, changing platforms, but for right now, Instagram. And my Instagram handle is just my first name, my last name. And just jump in my DM. I've had people ask about collaborations. I've also had people just like, look, I got all this debt and I need some help, can you please, and so I have a quick conversation with people as well, because again, I didn't get here, I just remember in the Bible, to whom much is given, much is required. And so, to just serve, God didn't give me these strengths for me to keep to myself. Right. So I am very, very excited to share them with other people. So yeah, DM me, Brittany, Brittne Halford, Halford, on Instagram. I also am on Facebook, but I don't check Messenger as often. So that will probably be the best way. And I'm hoping that by January, I'll have a website up soon. So maybe we could just kind of tag that in, the show notes or something like that, and people can connect with me that way.
That's pretty cool. Do you have like any email that they could reach out to you? Like, I'm not the biggest person on Instagram. I'm getting more into that. Like, I feel like how you said it about Facebook, that's like me on Facebook and how I look at Instagram. So I'm getting more into Instagram because I do see the value in Instagram now. But like, what if they don't like Instagram?
Yeah, and I don't know if Instagram is actually my preferred social media platform either. I do have an email address, but my emails, I sign up for all these deals, like free emails. And so sometimes I overlook emails. I'm just going to be honest, and I don't always see every email. So I think Instagram is the best way. So Instagram or Facebook are probably the best way, because if I were to give an email address and like not see it, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just because, you know, Macy sent me a sale and and I got my bump 33-week email and everything else coming in there all at once. So.
I would like to take the last few moments that we have together just to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for visiting with me today. And ask that if you could take a few more moments just to leave the show a review, I would greatly appreciate it. And if no one has told you today, you are freaking awesome. So until next time, you take care of yourself and those babies, you money-making mommy you.
Thanks for listening to the Mommy Talks podcast. Dive into the show notes for this episode and all past episodes at www.mommytalkspodcast.com. If you love this show, share it with a friend. The more the merrier. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, you money-making mommy you.